The prisoner shouldn't have been alive. General Kratzer had overseen interrogations across 47 worlds, broken warriors from species that made humans look like children's toys. The creature chained before him, Sergeant David Harrison, Earth Defense Force, should have died 3 days ago. Remarkable, Kratzer said, his mandibles clicking as he circled the human. Your species continues to surprise me with your capacity for futile resistance. David's head hung forward, blood dripping from cuts across his face. His left arm was clearly broken, twisted at an angle that made even the Krath guards uncomfortable. Burns covered his torso where they'd applied neural disruptors. By all biological models, he should be unconscious, dead even. Instead, when David lifted his head, his eyes, swollen nearly shut, still held defiance. Go to hell, he rasped. Kratzer's translator conveyed the words, and he laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Hell, yes, your species has such quaint concepts. Tell me, Sergeant, what keeps you conscious? Pride, duty, hope of rescue. David spat blood. Spite! Spite! Kratzer leaned closer. You cling to life out of spite. That. David's cracked lips attempted a smile. And I really want to see the look on your face when my people come for me. The general straightened. Your people are dead, Sergeant. Your ship was destroyed. You are the sole survivor of the ISS Defiance. There is no rescue coming. Something flickered in David's eyes, pain, yes, but not surrender. Never surrender? Then I'll haunt you myself, David said. Humans are real good at that. Being dead but too stubborn to quit. Kratzer had studied human physiology extensively. They were weak, fragile carbon-based life forms with easily damaged organs, minimal redundancy systems, and pain receptors so sensitive that even mild torture should incapacitate them. Yet this broken specimen continued to breathe, to speak, to resist. Your pain tolerance fascinates me, Kratzer admitted. We've subjected you to stimuli that would kill most species through neural shock alone. Yet you persist. Builds character. David wheezed. Character. The general pulled up a holographic display. Let me show you something, Sergeant. Perhaps it will break this character of yours. The display showed Earth, or what was left of it. Kratzer's fleet had begun orbital bombardment 6 hours ago. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. The blue, green jewel of humanity's homeworld was turning black. Your planet dies as we speak, Kratzer said. Your family, your friends, everything you knew, ash. What is the point of your resistance now? David stared at the screen for a long moment. His shoulders, which had been slumped, slowly straightened despite the obvious agony it caused. When he spoke, his voice was clearer, stronger. You made a mistake. Did I? Kratzer was genuinely curious. You attacked Earth. You think that breaks us? David actually laughed, though it turned into a wet cough. General, you just gave 8 billion humans a reason to unite. You've made every single one of us your enemy. Not soldiers, not governments. Everyone. Empty threats from a dying man. History lesson, David said, his voice taking on a teacher's cadence despite his condition. You know how humans got to the top of Earth's food chain. We weren't the strongest, weren't the fastest. Had no claws, no venom, no armor. Yes, the standard human rhetoric about persistence. No. David cut him off. We got to the top because we're the only species that wages war on concepts. We declared war on hunger, domesticated plants and animals. War on distance, built ships and planes. War on disease, created medicine. War on death itself, and we're winning slowly, but we're winning. Kratzer's mandibles stilled. This was unexpected. You think burning Earth breaks us. David continued, gathering strength from somewhere impossible. You just gave us a new war to fight. War on extinction. And humans don't lose wars on concepts, General. We might lose battles, might take centuries, but we don't quit, ever. Fascinating delusion. Tell me something, David said. How many of your kind does it take to change a light bulb? The question was so absurd that Kratzer actually paused. What? It's a joke. Human joke? The answer is, doesn't matter, because Krath don't change. You're the same as you were 10,000 years ago. Same tactics. Same technology, mostly. Same thinking? David's eyes focused with sudden clarity. But humans, we change every generation. Adapt. Evolve. Not biologically, that's too slow. We evolve culturally, technologically. We reinvent ourselves because we have to. Your point? My point? David said, and despite everything, his voice carried conviction that made the guards shift uncomfortably, is that you're fighting the last human war. But we're already thinking about the next one. The one where we come for you. Kratzer activated the neural disruptor again. David's body convulsed, every muscle locking in agony. The scream that tore from his throat was barely human. When it ended, David hung limply in his chains, gasping. Still alive, Kratzer observed. Why? Because? David's voice was barely a whisper, because if I die, you win, and I'll be damned if I give you that satisfaction. The general pulled up David's medical readings. Heart rate erratic but still pumping. Brain activity spiking in patterns that suggested consciousness despite trauma that should induce coma. Adrenaline levels that should be impossible to sustain. Your body is destroying itself to keep you conscious, Kratzer said. You're literally killing yourself to spite me. Yeah, David managed. Sounds about right. For the first time in his long military career, General Kratzer felt something he'd never experienced, I doubt. What are you? He asked quietly. David raised his head one more time. Blood ran from his nose, his ears, his eyes. Internal hemorrhaging, the monitors showed. Multiple organ failure beginning. He had minutes at most. I'm a human, David said with something approaching pride. We're the species that looked at the stars and said those are ours too. We're the species that went extinct a dozen times and came back every time. We're survivors, General. It's all we know how to be. You're dying. Yeah, finally. David's broken smile was terrible to behold. Took you long enough. But here's the thing about humans dying, General. We don't die quiet. We don't die forgotten. I'm going to die and you'll remember me. You'll remember the human who wouldn't break. And when my people come, and they will come, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you couldn't break one injured, tortured, dying human. And you'll wonder, if one was this hard to kill, what happens when millions come for revenge? Alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Kratzer's communication implant activated. General! Multiple human ships dropping out of FTL! There, the transmission cut off as the first railgun rounds punched through the station's shields. David started laughing. It was a broken, painful sound, but genuine. Told you. They'd come. Kratzer stared at his prisoner, at this dying human who somehow knew rescue was coming. How? Beacon. David wheezed, tapping his chest where Krathgard had struck him days ago. BO? Metric? Stops when I die. My heart's been sending coordinates. For 96 hours. The general's blood ran cold. You let us torture you. Kept yourself alive through sheer will. Just to buy time for a rescue beacon. Not rescue, David corrected. His voice fading. Revenge. You killed my crew. Attacked Earth. I was just the bait to bring you my people. And General, David's eyes locked onto Kratzer's with fading intensity. Humans are really, really good at revenge. The station shook as human ships tore through its defenses. Kratzer heard screaming in the corridors, felt the deck tilt as life support failed. He looked at David, whose head had finally dropped, his breathing shallow. You won, Kratzer admitted. Against all logic, you won. David's lips moved, barely audible. Didn't win. Survived. That's what we do. The door exploded inward. Human Marines poured through, weapons raised, medical personnel rushing to David's side. The last thing Kratzer saw before a plasma round ended his life was David Harrison, still breathing, still alive, while medics frantically worked to save him. EPI Lo Ju. 3 months later, David Harrison sat in a wheelchair on the observation deck of the ISS Vengeful, watching Earth's reconstruction efforts. His left arm was cybernetic now, the original had been too damaged to save. His body bore scars that would never fully heal. But he was alive. Admiral Chen approached, standing beside his wheelchair. The Krath Imperium has requested peace talks. There. Afraid good, David said simply. You know what they're calling you in the fleet. The Krath call you the unkillable. Our people call you the man who wouldn't die. David smiled slightly. I'm not unkillable, Admiral. I just refuse to die on their schedule. There's a difference. Nenity, 6 hours of torture, Harrison. The psychologists say it's impossible you stayed conscious that long, let alone alive. Yeah, well, David wheeled himself toward the viewport. Earth's recovering blue-green surface reflected in his eyes. Humans have a talent for doing impossible things. It's kind of our brand. What kept you going? Really? David was quiet for a moment, remembering the pain, the fear, the moments when he'd wanted to let go. Then he remembered what he'd told himself during those endless hours. I kept going because they needed to learn something. Every species that comes for humanity needs to learn the same lesson. What lesson? David's reflection in the viewport showed a man who'd been broken and refused to stay broken. That we don't break easy. And when you finally manage to break us, he turned to face the Admiral. That's when we become really dangerous. Because broken humans don't surrender. They rebuild themselves into something harder, something meaner, something that remembers exactly who broke them. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. The Krath certainly learned that. They lost that station, 3 capital ships, and General Kratzer himself in the rescue operation. All because one man refused to die. Not just me, David corrected. Every human who ever got knocked down and got back up. Every person who ever faced impossible odds and said, try me. I'm not Special Admiral. I'm just human. And humans don't quit. He looked back at Earth, at the cities being rebuilt, at the ships being constructed, at a species that had been hit hard and was already fighting back. The Krath thought they'd broken us. But they only made us angry. And an angry humanity. David smiled grimly. That's the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Somewhere in space, the Krath Imperium was learning that lesson the hard way. You could hurt humans. You could kill them. But you couldn't make them quit. Because quitting wasn't in their nature. Survival was.